30,000 more American troops are heading to Afghanistan, but American forces will start to be withdrawn in a year and a half. Those two details highlighting tonight's address by President Obama. He spoke at West Point and said the plan will cost $30 billion in the first year, but is needed because, quote, our security is at stake.
The 30,000 additional troops that I'm announcing tonight will deploy in the first part of 2010, the fastest possible pace, so that they can target the insurgency and secure key population centers. They'll increase our ability to train competent Afghan security forces and to partner with them so that more Afghans can get into the fight. And they will help create the conditions for the United States to transfer responsibility to the Afghans. Now, taken together, these additional American and international troops will allow us to accelerate handing over responsibility to Afghan forces and allow us to begin the transfer of our forces out of Afghanistan in July of 2011. Just as we have done in Iraq, we will execute this transition responsibly, taking into account conditions on the ground.
Tonight's speech, the latest big issue the president has had to address.
We've heard him address the nation already about the economy and health care reform. Political reporter Rick Alvin here now with his analysis of this address.
Well, this is in very many ways a different speech than we've heard from President Obama before. He began by evoking the memory of 9/11 and talking about the international legitimacy of the war in Afghanistan, something President Bush used to mention often too as it pertained to Iraq, but not heard as much from this president. He answered critics who said he took too long to make a decision on sending more troops to Afghanistan, saying the troops will arrive in theater at or before the time they were requested. He also talked about international terrorism, what he called violent extremist. In short, this was a very focused speech where the president reiterated his opposition to the war in Iraq, but, as he did in the campaign, said the war in Afghanistan was a matter of national security and made an impassioned case for both sending and removing troops on his timetable. The political fallout from this speech and the actions it will put in motion are worth watching. The president will have angered some of his base by agreeing to send more troops. He'll draw criticism from the right for setting a deadline for troop withdrawal. He may also face some questions from supporters about the assertion that American troops may be sent into any number of other areas to fight al-Qaeda. Perhaps the biggest political question is how to pay for this and other wars. Democrats have been sharply critical of the Bush administration for not paying for military actions. At least one Democrat has suggested a war tax. Question is, how will the president follow up on his admonition that government cannot ignore the cost of war?
Rick, you talked about the right and the left. Was the president aiming at the middle tonight?
He was trying to find a very delicate balance in doing what his advisors and the military had said needs to be done in Afghanistan, a war that he said during the campaign he thought was the right war, and also not to alienate his base, many of whom want out of Afghanistan. They want out of Iraq. They want out. And so he is really walking a very thin line, but then again, sometimes that's what presidents have to do.
Rick Alvin, thank you.